Antiquity Unveiled, the most marvelous revelations of the 19th century concerning the origin of Christianity by Jonathan Manning Roberts. Now, we would have finished the third and final part of the conclusion, which apparently is not the last thing we're going to share from this book, but we would have finished it, but the file got lost. I guess when the battery decides that you're below a certain point, it just deletes whatever you're working on. Don't like that one bit. The same spirit which inspired the reign of terror in the past, in the effort to cause man to accept teachings that his reason repudiated, is still extant and manifest as much and ventures as far as the public opinion and the present intelligence of the masses will permit. The public school and the printing press, we must look for the redemption of the race. The human race. Really, humanity bottlenecks so many times in terms of who our ancestors are that this notion of, superiority on blood and soil is just absolutely ridiculous. And not to the theological dogmas, which have come down to us through the midst of Oriental ages. We feel sure that many in both worlds will receive light from the passages of this work to guide them out of the shadowy wilderness, made more dark by mythical gods. These are surrounded with an almost impenetrable tangle of creeds and dogmas, a legacy handed down to us through the medium of priestcraft, effectually blocking the way of the soul's progress in the primary school of life. If we're too reliant on these claims of authority over us, there's some social authority that you may have to move with to some degree if we're not disobeying the revelation or the inspiration. But, you can't look at your own opinion make your own opinion of religious material and make your own conclusions. It's like, or you have the freedom in the society under the law, whether it's an Islamic state or a so-called democratic state or whatever. But some of the authorities are saying, no, don't make your own conclusions. And now on social media, they're saying alternative interpretations of history. What if the evidence supports making a different alternative? Now, I understand not blaming people. You're a crisis actor. Your child didn't really die. You should be a witness to something if you're going to accuse people of stuff. But, they're going way too far with this. Truth is mightier and will prevail. Though shrouded in centuries of darkness, it is destined to shine forth as the beacon of light to direct all the children of men into the fields of endless happiness and progress. Now, you don't really become other people's saviors. They have to be for themselves, but certainly we have Luciferian characters now. The Lux Etheros, light I illuminate, the Lucifer, I bring the light bringer. What's wrong with being a light bringer? And that's why this is on the Luciferian playlist. It's not, the devil. No, that's not what I mean by Lucifer. Jesus is nicknamed Lucifer, if you haven't heard some of the rest of what's going on here. As a preliminary to some closing remarks, we quote an extract from the Communication of Zoroaster as follows. In publishing these communications in your book, at the close of your volume, I wish this train of information set forth the fact impressed upon the reader that these spirits are working for applause. They're not working for applause. These spirits are not working for applause, but for the good of humanity. I further understand that these spirits have brought to you, have been compelled by my power to tell the truth. We also desire that it should be stated that we are not seeking to gain believers in any doctrine. All we ask is what has been disclosed herein will be examined in order that the truth may be known. Now, the truth behind all religions isn't this confusing mess of contradictions, like the various priests and statecraft have led us to conclude. But think of that. Even this, whether this is if this is not the medium working through their own psychology, if there's actually spirits coming through and taking over and talking through them, the fact that some of what comes through the spirits is sounding better than some of what is otherwise said. Now, I don't think that in terms of evidence we can say that their Bible is as good as the other Bible, but they both have their issues. But definitely we can say that some truths are coming through in a book like this that aren't coming through otherwise. But does it need the medium? Does it ever need the medium for any of these points to be made? Truth may be known. We coincide with the views of Spirit Zoroaster. We are not trying to gain converts to any doctrine or religious belief, having long since seen the folly of so doing. The truth is only our chief concern in this connection, and if that is brought to light, we shall feel repaid 1,000-fold for our efforts in its behalf. Our work of compelling is finished. Before closing, however, we wish to say, in our own behalf, that the task has been a very arduous one and attended with many difficulties. This should be borne in mind by any who may feel disposed to criticism. Well, certainly use critical thought with everything, but needlessly criticizing, let's not do that. So remember, none of this is supposed to be needless criticism. In compiling this work, we were obliged to take the matter as we found it in the columns of a weekly journal, which accounts for many passages in the comments bearing marks of the haste in construction, which frequently attends the editing of matter for a newspaper. The most critical reader, however, cannot fail to note the great labor and research that must have been expended in order to bring them to their present condition. It was the intention of Mr. Roberts to carefully revise these comments before the publishing of the work in book format. This we did not feel at liberty to do. The communications, as the reader has already been informed, are given verbatim. Some readers may criticize their style and language as not being up to the standard that would be expected from such spirit minds. It should be remembered that many of them were unfamiliar with the English language while on earth, and all of them were obliged to deliver their statements through a very illiterate medium. Well, not learned, instead of a scholar and a linguist, which will account for many objections which may be raised. It seems to have been their design to speak in terms of the common mind that the common mind could comprehend, evidently for the purpose of bringing out the truth in a plain and simple form. To the critical mind, there may also be apparent contradictions in the spelling of names and persons and things which sound differently when articulated by spirits who were not familiar with the English language. The spirit testimony was recorded as it was voiced through the medium as nearly correct as it was possible with the rapid writing. But this process, some trivial mistakes were liable to occur, which could not well be corrected, as repetition of the spirit's testimony was impossible after he had left control of the medium. We think, however, that in the cases of the meaning the spirit intended to convey is clear. Now, I'm trying to be, I speak in a way that I can understand. I'm not trying to be obscure or difficult in whatever I express. I'm trying to express in different ways. I have spoken through over 60 philosophers and how to explain things, and I will continue to do stuff like that. And so, there's stuff that I express that I hope that someone will comment and share something that will help me understand my material better. Of course, in a way, I don't censor things. I mean, if it turns out there's some personal information of me or someone else, or someone who doesn't want to be in the film, I can edit them out. But only the fact that I can't just randomly read and comment on, there's copyright rules and limits in terms of what I do. Everything that I have is either in the public domain or either old in terms of 70 plus years, that sort of thing. That I'm sharing. I definitely, someone would sit down and we were to go over a chapter or something of any of these books. It wouldn't be, and I've done that. I've discussed and shared things that I can't share because it's not my material on the channel. But I'm rambling here. We have not taken up this task for the purpose of pecuniary gain, but with all that honesty and sincerity of purpose which could prompt the mind in the interests of truth. And such noted personages as Zoroaster, Apollonius, and others could labor for centuries to bring these truths to light. We certainly can appropriate some time to cooperate with them in a cause of such vast importance to all. These intelligences from the great beyond are obliged to depend on human instruments and cooperation in order to bring the attention of the world any truth or knowledge they have to impart, or any other agendas as human beings become nexions for the jinn, right? Our brother, Mr. Roberts, fell by the wayside under the weight of years and excessive mental labor in his work. After such extended efforts on the part of the spirit and mortal, we could not see a cause fall upon which rested the common interest of mankind, without an effort in its behalf. In taking up this task, our sole object has been to complete the work commenced by the hand of the spirits and left unfinished through the decease of Mr. Roberts. The reader cannot fail to recognize that we question the origin of the doctrines and teachings of Christianity, and even of Christianity itself. In fact, the more honest and conscientious among the clergy begin to question these ancient dogmas themselves as they see them crumbling before the gaze of an enlightened people. The Christian reader will naturally exclaim, "If I relinquish my hold upon the Christian religion, what have I upon which to depend?" We answer, truth. If there's some truth or good outside one's faith, one certainly should pick it up, right? But to say a lot of things is not that it isn't part of one's faith, it's that people can't see it or they don't have the information. And anyways, upon this basis, you will prove to yourself, either in this or the life beyond, that to work out your own salvation is human destiny, ever progressing from the lower to the higher condition in the moral as well as the spiritual nature. This may be termed spiritual evolution. We know full well that there are good and true people in the church, and insofar as they are sincere and truly believe in what they profess, they have our deepest sympathy, knowing as we do that they are better than their creeds and dogmas. It is their moral qualities and innate goodness that the world feels and respects, and not the doctrines in which they believe. Respect the good and truth in anyone, in any path. We take leave of our readers. We sincerely regret that it did not fall into the lot of one of the more competent to fulfill the task we are about to close. The subject is of great import and transcendent interest to the world, and while we regret that this work could not have been better accomplished, we are glad to have been the humble instrument to aid in bringing these great revelations before the world and in this form. And you may not see, but I'm gesturing towards the shelf. It's not entirely my grandma's stuff, but it became my almost everything in that shelf there is my grandma's Christian literature, so and Bibles that I could share, right? I guess some of them are too new for that, but let's go back a little bit. In the past, we would have been burned at the stake for daring to publish such a book. In 1960, the stake is outmoded. Time is fleeting. Several different organizations seek to control the world, not just one. Therefore, we risk not our life, but possibly our reputation, our chance of having the book banned by the various powers. We regret the small type, but neither our budget nor our volume of sales allows us to reset type, nor do we have the luxury of time necessary to proofread, reset type. Truth is such a rare quality, a stranger so seldom, not in this civilization of fraud, that is never received freely, but we must fight its way into the world. And in his remarkable work, titled The Glorious Resurrection, Professor Hilton Hoektema has shown the original God of man is the Son. Yeah, armchair anthropologists running their mouth about stuff they don't know about, right? All other gods of the various religious systems are variants of the Son, being the clever inventions of the conniving priesthood, a group of scheming men to whom Emile Zola wrote, "Civilization will thrive when the last stone of the last church falls on the head of the last priest." In the Bible it is written, "Whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." You know, S-U-N, as I guess. But that's a pun. It's not a Greek thing. But they meant something else. Bunya, the understanding, the one attached to the house, a different word, Bria. Again, nothing people would have taken literal, which must be the Son of God. We find the facts by tracing words back to their original meaning. The basic meaning of the word Christ is Son. Albert Pike said that in the ancient Hindu language, the word Kri meant white, or an opening. Kris meant the sun, and Krishna was the Hindu sun god. Morals and Dogma of Freemasonry, page 78. And I can prove that argument a little bit wrong, but some truth to it, right?